Welcome back to another segment of D.B. Cooper Through the Lens of Logic. I was once asked who I thought was D.B. Cooper, or how this suspect compared to that suspect, or why I don't think it's this guy and why I don't think it's that guy. We're going to discuss that today. I'm just going to give you a quick on how I'm going to do this. Evaluate each suspect independently and evaluate them against the matrix elements to determine how viable of a suspect they truly are. So I'm trying to look at an objective measure and compare them to the objective measure. One key, I'm just going to tell you, is to figure out why there's a time gap between when the crime's committed and when the money is found and the condition that it's found. Why is this time gap there? Because, frankly, why is the money even found at all? According to our optimal solution, the reason the money is discovered is due to Cooper himself. But why?
Sun it ain't right. Here we go. If you make sure you're connected, the writing's on the wall. But if your mind's neglected, stumble you might fall, stumble you might fall. Stumble you might fall.
The very first suspect in this entire case was Ted Mayfield. A few years ago, there were a few guys that went on television and radio and did all these interviews and really accused Ted Mayfield of being D.B. Cooper. They effectively said they solved the case in all their postings online. It was, hey, when we solved this case, this is how we did it. So they were convinced 100% without question that this was the guy. He was actually the first suspect in the case, so we're going to cover him first. He was a skydiver from Portland, and he spoke with the FBI the night of the crime. In fact, I think the plane was still in the air, if I'm not mistaken, when he was on the phone with them. And if you look at the FBI notes, or the notes from the crime, the teletype, you'll see not the teletype, but you'll see his name come up pretty much immediately in this investigation. So my questions are, where did he stash the ransom money? Where did he stash the ransom money? And I'll tell you what the two guys said. They said he buried it. Well, we know that didn't happen. Why did he put some of the money in the river 7 years after the crime? Good question. There's really no logical stream of thought here. Because when the money was found, it put the case back into the public eye. It was front page news all around the country. So why would Mayfield dump perfectly good cash to do this? And if you'll look, I did make an assumption that the cash was perfectly good. Why would he do it? And why wouldn't it be perfectly good? We know he didn't bury it. You know, the guy, this just shows you the stupidity of what most people propose. They don't actually think about this case. So even though the things I have shown you are effectively, I don't want to say common sense because it's not common, but it's very logical, it's very direct, and it's pretty tough to argue against it, that is. So the next guy I'm going to talk about is Jack Coffelt. This is a suspect. Actually, he's recently making some headlines because I think there's either a book or a show or something coming out on this guy. But he was investigated in the 70s, I want to say. And the question I say is, where did the money come from? You know, this guy was dead before that money was ever found. And he was reportedly searching for the ransom money near Bend, Oregon, which is nowhere near the flight path. Not even close. He may as well been looking for the money in Kentucky. Frankly, I'm not BSing you. It's not even close. But the more important thing isn't whether or not the guy was reportedly looking in an area that was actually viable or not. Really, it's how did the money get there? Because if Jack Coffelt did it, that means a third party absolutely 100% must be involved. Why? We know that money was moved. Okay? It's either a third party or some kind of natural means, but if he was actually looking for the money, you can remove the natural means part, meaning natural event causing the money to enter the Columbia River. You can remove that completely. This pretty much doesn't fit the optimal solution, which doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's not likely, and by a huge margin, not even close. But again, you have these problems. I'm going to say it's actually questionable whether he confessed. That could be because I don't know the whole story. I don't know quite how genuine it is, but frankly, the guy was dead by the time this confession ever surfaced. Do we know that he really confessed? Was there anyone around to actually say he did? I guess there was a father and son team that were pitching their story for years, trying to make money on this deal. That said, he confessed. But other than that, do we have any way to know? There's a lot of people out there trying to sell stories, especially back then. Some of those people got arrested, put in jail. So really, the story details did not fit. And this is critical. Additional details added after the money was discovered. How do I know? Well, I believe it was the London Observer ran an article in I believe it was 1980, very early, like January 1980, right before the money was found. And in this article, there's no mention whatsoever of Cooper chucking money out of the plane. However, you come back a few years later, it's almost the same article written in a Las Vegas periodical by Brown, the guy pitching the story, and all of a sudden there's a new element to the story. Cooper Coffelt told him how he took some of this money and chucked it out the plane before he left, and that explains the money being found. No, it doesn't. Alright, we've talked about that. If you disagree, watch the videos, please. So really, this is questionable. I'll be really surprised to see what they put out regarding this guy, because this guy doesn't fit. Alright, Bob Huddleston. This is a guy who allegedly confessed. The guy who brought this forward was some kind of, I believe he was a taxi cab driver. We haven't heard much of this guy in a few years, but he had green eyes, so that doesn't fit the description at all, not even close. And he's said to have purchased the ticket under the name of Don Cooper, not Dan Cooper, and he thought it was hilarious that they were looking for the wrong guy. And one thing I thought that was interesting is, in this story, he hid the money until 1978. Pretty good hypothesis there, actually. That somewhat fits our optimal solution. But these other problems are problems. Everybody has a problem, just so you know. All these suspects, none of them are perfect.